Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the 9.0 tier list for all the classes and specs that are available to you guys in World of Warcraft Shadowlands. If you guys don't know me, my name is Hogman. Recently back in World of Warcraft, and I think that today's video will be really nice because a lot of people ask me what they should play whenever they're hopping in to World of Warcraft for the first time, whether they're making an alt or a main class, trying to figure out what's good and why they should play these classes. And I think that this is going to be a really nice time to really dive into each one of these and talk to you guys about where, in my opinion, the classes rank all the way from S to A to B to C to D and not interested, which I put all the tanks in. Sorry guys, just letting you guys know. Up front, I don't really see like tanks being super interesting, but for everything else, I have this ready to go and list out. If you guys could go ahead and hit that like button as we get into this. So let's go ahead and start. We have the Arms Warrior, and actually the Arms Warrior is a great one to start it off with because it actually does rank in the S tier for me in Arena right now. So Arms Warrior is by far the most versatile class right now. They offer so much damage. They offer a lot of utility with Intervene, with Spell Reflex, with their fears, their charges, their storm bolts, their ability to basically disrupt a target, and then also intervene, which is a really good way to peel damage off of your opponents. They have low cooldowns. They have defensive stance for passive damage reduction whenever they need it. And overall, they're just an amazing pick right now. They fit into pretty much every composition. They can play with mages. They can play with any healer. They can play with enhancement shamans, moonkins. They can play with anything and actually make it work at the top of the rating. I personally play with an Arms Warrior right now. Primarily, I play Fire Mage Arms Warrior, and I think Arms Warrior, from my opinion, is definitely, honestly, probably the best class in World of Warcraft right now, for PvP at least, because they just dominate, honestly. They're just so good. Moving on, we got Assassination. I actually rank Assassination in the A tier. I think that it's actually as good as Subtlety right now. A lot of people are not playing it, but I'm starting to see more and more Assassination rogues come back. And Assassination scales very well into the later parts of the expansion. So if you're thinking about playing a rogue and you're not, very good at Subtlety and Outlaw, maybe take up that Assassination role. They're actually really good. They do a lot of damage, and they really do apply a lot of pressure to an enemy target. And I'm starting to see more and more of them at the higher ratings. I think I've seen Peekaboo starting to play it a little bit more too, and he's one of the top rogues in the region. I'm seeing this come back a lot, so I think that it's possible. So with the Outlaw Rogue, definitely going to be putting it in the lowest possible tier. So I've actually fought an Outlaw Rogue one time, and it was in a 2 versus 2 match. It was 2,500 MMR, which is pretty high right now, and it was a Chinese player, and he is actually the number not anymore, he's not number one anymore, but he was at the time the number 1 Outlaw Rogue in Mythic Plus, and he actually made this spec work really well in 2s, but for 3s, this is actually not even viable whatsoever compared to Assassination and Subtlety. It just doesn't do as much damage, and they can die pretty quickly, so they don't have as much utility as Subtlety does, and even in Assassination, the damage is pretty comparable, so you want to pick up a class that has a little bit more utility for Arena, so that's why I put it in the D tier. Nobody's playing it, and the other 2 specs, in my opinion, are better. So let's go ahead and put the Subtlety Rogue in the A tier as well. They actually are doing pretty well. They play a lot of RMP right now, and that seems to be where the class is really thriving. I don't see a whole lot of rogues playing anything but RMP, and I think that as the expansion continues, we'll see RMP actually do a little bit better, just because I think over time rogues have been getting slowly buffed with their Covenant reworks, and just as the way scaling works, usually rogues scale really well into the later parts of the expansion from previous history, so that's why I put them in the A tier right now. I don't think that they're actually amazing, but they do work at rank 1 ratings, and all the way up through the ladder you see a lot of rogues, and they're a pretty strong class. They have pretty good damage and whatnot. So we have the Discipline Priest. So I'm actually going to put this the Disc Priest in the B tier, maybe even C tier, honestly. I think playing C tier for Discipline Priests, and I'll explain this as we get into the Holy discussion, but with Discipline, the reason why I'm putting Discipline down is because I think that Discipline compared to Holy is kind of troll. I don't think playing Discipline is actually any better than Holy. And Discipline offers damage, and it has its niches, but the problem is that we're in a meta right now with World of Warcraft where mana is very relevant for healers, and Discipline actually runs out of mana the fastest out of every healer. So, you basically can just play an arena game, and if you don't die for 4 minutes, like the enemy healer, which is a discipline priest, just runs out of mana and then the team loses. Like, I think that it's actually kind of troll to play discipline over holy, and that's why I'm actually going to rank holy up into the B. I'm probably going to rank it in the B tier, maybe even A tier. Honestly, I'm seeing a lot more holy priests recently, and the fact that they have chastise and they can CDR reset it with smite spamming and that one legendary I don't know the name of. I actually think holy is starting to be, pretty relevant in the meta. I see a lot more of them. I think Mez actually rank 1 on NA right now with the holy priest, and I think that overall, like the holy priest, with its burst healing, with the legendaries that are pretty interesting, they could swap out. They have mind games still available to him, which the disc priest has. They have really low cooldown with that guardian spirit serenity combo. I think that they actually do offer a lot, and they don't run out of mana very often. So next up, we have the damage spec of the priest. I'm actually going to put these in the S tier. I think that the shadow priest is an S tier class right now. It fits into a lot of really top tier compositions, whether that be warrior shadow priest or god comp, which is mage shadow priest. Having mind games available and also a spammable purge. So shadow priest purging is actually insane, and a lot of shadow priests on NA, at least the ones that I fight, don't purge nearly enough. The only one that purges a lot and actually does his job super well with that purge is going to be WizK. And WizK really taught me that, in my opinion, I think that Shadow Priest is an S tier class. I see this a lot from Jaw too. They can spam purge so much, and I think that purge is really highly valued right now in a lot of ways. And I think that this overall puts Shadow Priest in the S tier just because they can't die very well. They have that disperse and fade and life swap, and disperse and fade have such a low cooldown, so they can just rotate them with their healer cooldowns, and they end up not dying and playing this dampening version of the game, which takes a really long time to be able to kill a Shadow Priest. I think that Shadow Priest overall can just do so much for the team. They provide so much utility with Massive Spell, Purge, overall high damage. They have mind games, they've got mind control, they've got stun, silence. They have so much to offer. I think that overall the Shadow Priest is actually really good, and I honestly think it's one of the best classes in the game, one of the best DPS that people can play. So that's why I went ahead and put that up there. So I'm actually going to put the Affliction Warlock at the B tier. So the reason why I think it's really good is Affliction Warlock does so much damage, but I just don't think that they've scaled enough into the expansion yet to be super viable. With that recent demon skin buff, that actually is a huge buff that makes Warlock very, very difficult to kill, and that's a huge point of conversation, because with that being said, Affliction Warlocks had a really hard time in the early parts of the expansion dealing with melee cleaves. So they would just die to melee cleaves flat out. They just could not survive. They didn't have enough to be able to work with. They didn't have, a whole lot of defensive cooldowns available to them, but they do so much damage, right? So when you're playing an Affliction Warlock and then you get buffed on Demon Skin, which increases your armor, you're able to survive against melee cleaves a little bit more. And I actually am putting him in the B tier only because I don't think that there are a ton of Affliction Warlocks being played right now, but I think Affliction Warlock could end up going in that A tier. But for now, it's going to be B tier. And I'm actually going to put C, and I'm going to put D for both Destruction and Demonology. People just aren't playing this, and honestly, I feel like Destruction Warlock and Demonology Warlock are just a less damage version of Affliction, and they have to cast a little bit more than Affliction does. I think that overall, these guys are just not doing so well, and I really never see it played at all in the higher ratings in Arena. So, that's why I'm going to be putting both of them into the D tier. But if you did want to try out Affliction, I think that it's possible that Affliction could end up being a really strong meta pick. But for now, not, with the recent changes in 9.0.5, we just haven't really seen that. So let's go ahead and talk about the Holy Paladin. So the Holy Paladin is actually really interesting right now because it's been nerfed so many times. It used to be an S tier class, right? It was an S tier healer, really, really strong healer. But overall, with Holy Paladin being nerfed so much, especially to their mana usage, it's really difficult for Holy Paladins to last a super long time in Arena now, even though they have great healing with that Divine Toll combo. They can just do so much, and there's still a lot of niche things, and I think that there's a lot of Holy Paladins that are still succeeding, but I think because of the recent nerfs, I'm not going to rank a Holy Paladin as an S tier. I think that Holy Paladin is on the way down as their mana becomes less and less useful. I don't know. I can't really see why Holy Paladin does deserve the S tier just because of all those nerfs. They don't last forever, but they do offer a huge amount of offensive pressure with those Hodges, with the damage that they can put out, which is extremely underrated. You know, being able to use those Hammer of Justices, those Judgment combos. You know, I've seen Holy Paladins that I play with do 20, 30k burst damage in a couple seconds, like as much as I do as a Fire Mage. So it's pretty insane, honestly. And I think that if they didn't get nerfed in their mana, they would definitely be S tier, but right now I'm going to put them at A tier. We have Fury, so I'm actually going to put Fury at the C tier. I think that it's a little underrated. People just don't play it because of how strong the Mortal Strike, you know, just Arms Warrior combo is. I feel like overall, like Venthyr and Kyrian Warrior is just insane right now, so people don't play Fury over that. But I do think that Fury has potential, and they've been receiving some buffs recently, so I think it's possible that, you know, maybe this is good, but I just don't see it enough. I've only seen it like 1 or 2 times. They do a lot of damage, but I just don't see people playing it over Arms, so I'm going to put Fury in that C tier. We have the Prop Paladin, and I'm just going to put that not interested, actually, because I think it's like an unspoken rule, or maybe it's even a spoken rule in World of Warcraft, whereas if you play a tank in arena, like nobody likes you. I'm sorry. That's just the truth. So, with that being said, yeah, we're just going to put the tanks in the not interested areas, and then move on to the Retribution Paladin. So the Retribution Paladin is actually an insane class right now. It does so much damage and so much healing. It tops damage every time you go into an arena, and then also almost tops healing every time too. They're really hard to kill. It's just, I think that there's probably a difference between like players that play Ret that aren't used to playing Ret or haven't played it for very long, and then people like Vanguards, for example. So Vanguards is like pretty much top of the ladder right now as Ret. And every time I fight them, it seems really, really difficult to kill them, and it seems that way for pretty much everyone, especially when paired up with an Arms Warrior, because, you know, an Arms Warrior has Intervene and is really hard to kill, and then the Ret Paladin offers basically this insane hybrid healing. You know, so combining that with a really dampened, oriented healer, so like a healer that doesn't run out of mana, like a Holy Priest, for example. I think that the Retribution Paladin actually offers a lot, so I'm going to put it in the A tier. But the thing is the reason why it's not S tier for me is because when you pair it with something like a Shadow Priest or a Fire Mage, it doesn't do so well. They really only have a limited amount of comps right now that I'm seeing, and that's generally Ret Warrior. So Ret Warrior healer is the only comp that I see it succeeding in right now, so that's why I put it in the A tier, but still a really strong class. So with the Moonkin, I'm actually going to put it in the B tier. The reason why I'm putting Moonkin in the B tier is because Moonkin, in my opinion, is very scripted and only has like this one-shot like cheese type gameplay, in my opinion. You know, they have Celestial Alignment with Kyrian, and that increases their damage, and they can go like every minute or so. And they can do damage, but it's just not as much damage as like a Fire Mage would be. So that's why I'm putting them into the B tier. I think that they have a very limited amount of comps as well. And also people are playing like Elemental and Enhancement a little bit more than a Moonkin would be played in certain compositions. So I just feel like overall, like the Moonkin, you know, was really strong with Convoke, but then they got nerfed a few times. They had Full Moon removed out of the rotation because it was one-shotting people for 30k, 35k. And it's just too much, you know, too many nerfs, I think, to this class. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and put them in the B tier. I really haven't been seeing them as often in the higher ratings in Arena. You know, I only see like 2 or 3 teams queuing a week with the Moonkin. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and put it down. I just think it's too scripted. And with the Feral, I think I'm going to go ahead and put the Feral Druid in the B tier as well. So Feral Druid, I'm actually seeing a lot more. I think that Feral Druid does have a lot of potential, but the thing is like people just don't really play this at the highest rating right now. I think that the Arms Warrior is just a better version of a Feral Druid, except for Feral Druid just has off healing and Cyclone. But overall, like the Feral Druid has that really insane Convoke one-shot ability. You know, I've seen a Convoke Druid literally do like 70 to 80,000 damage in like 2 seconds to players with Convoke. Like Convoke Feral Druid is definitely very strong. I definitely think it's possible to get rank 1 with it for sure, without a doubt in my mind. But I just don't think that like the Feral Druid dominates. I just think that, you know, it really is only like this like cheese play style with Convoke, and outside of that, it's like not really easy to win. So outside of that, I would put it in the B tier. We have the Wrestle Druid, and the Wrestle Druid has been really interesting to me recently. I've actually been playing with the Wrestle Druid more And I'm actually seeing a lot more Wrestle Druids being played. I think with the recent throughput buffs that Wrestle Druid has had, the story of Wrestle Druid has just basically been like it's a good healer, offers CC, doesn't go out of mana very often, but the overall healing is just lower, and it's a very bursty meta right now. So whenever you play with a Wrestle Druid, you just don't get as much burst healing as you do with like a Holy Priest or a Holy Paladin. So whenever I talk about Wrestle Druid, I think that they still need a little bit more. And maybe they will scale over time throughout future patches, and as the item level increases, you'll see that Wrestle Druid increasing in power. And as they scale and get more and more burst healing with higher intellect, higher stats overall, we'll see that Wrestle Druid thrive more. But I think that with the recent buffs, I think it's possible to put them in the A tier. I think they do fit in a lot of compositions right now. And I think that you're going to be seeing a lot more played at the highest ratings very soon, if not already. So, and I'm actually playing with one right now, and I'm over 3K. So, I don't think that they're bad whatsoever. And that's really just because of the mana capabilities. They're just really mobile. They offer CC, and they don't run out of mana. So that's... but the only thing that I wouldn't put in the S tier for, like if they just had a little bit more burst healing, a little bit more throughput with their healing, it would be S tier for sure. But unfortunately, that's the weakness of it, right? All right, so we have the Ellie. I'm definitely putting in the A tier. I think that the Elemental Shaman is just really, really strong. It offers a lot. I think it fits into a lot of compositions. People have been playing it a little bit less, but they just offer so much damage. And it's pretty hard to kill Elemental Shamans because of just the overall healing output that Elemental Shamans can actually put out. You know what? I think actually I'm going to go ahead and put this in the B tier. I think that they really do have a lot of potential, but only versus like niche things. And I think that the best Ellie Shamans definitely thrive, but overall, like I don't know if it fits in the meta more so than Enhancement Shaman. So I'm actually going to put Enhancement Shaman into the A tier, and this is entirely because of how much healing they can put out. They do so much damage. They really do like an incredible amount of burst damage, probably the highest in the game with like Ascendance and Doom Winds and Chain Harvest. They really can do some of the most incredible burst damage next to like Ret Paladin. And they do really well with Turbo Cleave. So when they're paired with like an Arms Wear and a Holy Paladin or Holy Priest, it's a really scary tier 1 comp. It's very difficult to deal with, and that's probably the most common comp that I see queuing on the ladder right now is Enhancement Shaman, Arms Wear, Healer. So I'm seeing that really, really often. I think that Enhancement Shaman is an A tier right now. It's very meta, and a lot of people are playing it just because of how much healing it actually puts out. It really does do an insane amount of healing, more so than, in my opinion, more so than Ret, and almost as much as a regular healer. And then we have the Wrestle Shaman. I'm actually going to put this in the B tier. I think Wrestle Shamans, they're really good. They don't run out of mana. They offer a lot of burst healing, but they just have a low amount of defensive cooldowns. So in my opinion, like Wrestle Shaman against like RMP or like setup-based comps, kind of, in my opinion, lack compared to the Holy Paladin or Holy Priest, just because they have such a high cooldown timing. They really only have Spirit Link and Ascendance and, a couple other small things, but outside of that, like if you get through those cooldowns on a setup based comp, like you kind of just beat Wrestle Shaman teams. So it's hard for them to really thrive. They have a lot of like disruption with Grounding Totem and Wind Shear, but eventually, in my opinion, you can outplay those things and eventually get those wins against Wrestle Shaman teams. So I haven't had a whole lot of experience with that, in my opinion. We have Mistweaver, so I'm actually going to put that in the D tier. The highest rated Mistweaver on the North American ladder is only 2750, whenever the rank 1 rating right now is over 3K. So Mistweavers just honestly have had a really pitiful experience throughout this expansion. They haven't been buffed really much at all, and they just die. They don't do as much healing as any other class, and honestly, I feel like an Enhancement Shaman could probably out-heal a Mistweaver right now in Arena. So that's just the unfortunate thing, is just like they're super undertuned. They deserve buffs. And I'm actually going to be putting the Windwalker over into the C tier as well. So actually, Windwalker used to be an S tier class, but they've been nerfed so many times, and with these recent like bug fixes that pretty much nerf the class in the ground, Windwalkers just die and they get scaled out super hard as an expansion comes. Historically, Windwalkers do worse over time into the later parts of expansion. So I actually put the Windwalker down pretty low into the C tier. I don't think that they're going to be doing super well anymore. And I think it's possible that, I do think that there will be like rank 1 Windwalkers that still make it and whatnot. But I think that overall, like the meta pick of Windwalker is definitely going down. I think Windwalker DK could probably do super well, but again, these are just exceptions. I think the overall average Windwalker player probably won't thrive in the current meta. So we have Havoc. I'm actually going to be putting Havoc into the B tier. I play a Havoc Demon Hunter above like 2100-ish right now, so I have a pretty solid understanding of how they're doing. I actually think Havoc has an incredible amount of defensive capabilities available to them. They have Darkness, they have Auto Darkness, they have Blur on a low cooldown, they have Netherwalk, they have tons of mobility. And I think that really like what they've lacked in the early parts of the expansion is just damage. They got a really bad rework into Shadowlands and even BFA. But the thing is about Havoc Demon Hunter is every expansion that they have been in since Legion, right? The later parts of the expansion, as gear gets better, Havoc Demon Hunter does better. It's just been the history of the class. Like they always do better later in the expansion. And I think that you're going to see Havoc a lot past 9.1. I actually play it right now, and I think that it's pretty good right now. Like it's not great, but like there's definitely still weaknesses, especially against like setup based burst comps. Like it's hard to survive. But I think over time, like the Havoc Demon Hunter will thrive, and especially if they continue to get a little bit more damage buffs that they recently received in 9.0.5. I think that more damage buffs will happen to this class, and it just takes time. So I'm actually going to put the Frost Death Knight into the A tier. I think that the Frost Death Knight overall is actually really, really good. Heartstop Aura is probably one of the best abilities in the game. I honestly might even put it in the S tier because I feel like the Frost Death Knight just puts out an insane amount of damage, has a really great amount of disruption, can offer a really high amount of burst damage, and also works well in setup-based comps because of A-Bomb Limb being able to grip every player into melee range and do an incredible amount of damage with Chill Streak and also, the Dragon. And then the biggest thing, though, I think that really earns the S tier for Frost Death Knights is the Heartstop Aura. So Heartstop Aura, for people that don't know, reduces the cooldown recovery rate. And the way that this works, man, is just like, especially as a fire mage, like if I'm in a Heartstop Aura, I can only combust every like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, just because of like how much it actually screws my class. And I think that this is a similar story for pretty much every class. So I'm actually going to put Frost Death Knight in the S tier. I think it's a really strong class. I think it succeeds very well. I'm going to be putting the Unholy Death Knight into the B tier. I've seen a lot of people play Unholy Death Knight recently. It's been getting some buffs, and I'm seeing people play it a little bit more. Not so much in 3s, a lot in 2s. Sometimes in 3s, and I've actually seen it play pretty well. I just don't think people play it over Frost right now. Unholy Death Knight offers a lot of the same stuff as the Frost Death Knight, but I think it's just maybe a little less damage or something. I'm not really sure, but we'll see how Unholy plays out over the later parts of the expansion. So we have the BM Hunter. I'm actually not seeing this class at all outside of 2s. And I think that the BM Hunter does have potential, but I just don't see it right now. Probably because like Enhancement Shamans would rather play with a Warrior than a BM Hunter. And also people just don't really play a whole lot of Hunter right now at the higher ratings. I really only see like Jelly Beams and SSDS play it. And I don't know if they really play a whole lot of BM right now. I think they do every now and then. I'm actually going to be putting the Marksman Hunter actually at the C tier as well, and the Survival Hunter. The Hunter in general just isn't played that much, and I think it really struggles overall with just surviving. And I think that overall, like, there just needs to be more players really testing this out. It's possible that these could go up over time, but I just don't see it right now. So this is what I'm going to be putting it at. All right, and then we have the Arcane Mage. So this is the class that I got rank 1 in Legion as. Arcane is actually going to be put in the C tier. It just doesn't do that much damage, unfortunately. It offers a spammable purge with spell steal. I can actually just spam spell steal and never run out of mana, or barely run out of mana as Arcane, and that's really all it offers. It's just that the damage throughput that Arcane Mage has is just super low, and compared to like Fire and Frost, it just doesn't offer as much, unfortunately. So hopefully we'll see this get buffed. I think the biggest thing with Arcane is that they got displacement taken away from them. So like displacement used to be a really strong utility cooldown to be able to survive against like cleaves and stuff, but basically if a target just trains an Arcane Mage, like the Arcane Mage can't do anything, and it just is overall sad for Arcane Mages. So rest in peace. Hopefully they get better. So we have the Fire Mage, definitely putting that in the S tier. The Fire Mage just offers an incredible amount of burst damage, utility, and survivability with Triune Ward. I think that the Fire Mage is just a dominant class right now and has been since the start of the expansion. It's just an incredible one. I actually currently play it, and it's incredible. It's really strong. And then I'm actually going to be putting the Frost Mage into the A tier. I think Frost Mage is super underrated right now. I think that a lot of people don't play it. I've seen like Wealthy Man from Cloud9 and Grayson play Frost Mage and Venruki, and I see them do really well actually. I think that it's very possible that Frost Mage can do as well as Fire in some comps, like WMD, for example. We saw Frost WMD being played on ladder by Wealthy Man not too long ago, and he did really well. They ended up getting 3,200 with it. I think that it's very possible that Frost can be a very good comp. Or sorry, Frost Mage can be in a very good comp. They've received like 6 buffs recently. So I think they do the good damage. I think the only thing they don't have is like DB. But they offer a lot of slows. So against some certain comps, you know, I think Frost Mage really does offer a lot. And that's going to sum up the tier list, guys. We actually did it. You know, this is my current tier list. I really believe in this. I think that all these classes are viable. You know, and again, with tier lists, like, take it with a grain of salt. If you play a class that's not as good, like, it doesn't matter because it's a video game, and the whole point of playing a video game is to have fun and enjoy the game. But if you want to take that competitive advantage, play those meta comps, you know, play as a meta class with that warrior, shadow priest, frost death knight, fire mage, some kind of like variant, and then mix it up with these guys. You know, I actually don't have an S tier healer right now just because of the nerfs right now. We're seeing a lot of nerfs and buffs go out to pretty much every healer, so it's hard to really, you know, say this is the best right now, but I can say that like some of these are good, you know, with the Wrestle Druid, Holy Paladin, and Holy Priest being a good viable comp. So anyways, guys, thank you. I appreciate you guys. I hope you had a wonderful time watching this video. Be sure to leave a thumbs up and hang out on my stream every now and then at twitch.tv/hogmanlols. Hit that subscribe button for future videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.